Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like San Francisco is doing something quite interesting, which I'm not quite sure whether this is good or bad, mostly due to the fact that, um, it just seems a little bit insane that this would be happening. Now, this guy, I think this would depends whether or not how police essentially do this. Um, Whether they have robots just randomly roaming the streets, or they have actually full control of the robots and they, do the deed. But it seems San Francisco will allow police to deploy robots that kill. Interesting. So I'm not quite sure what this study means. So we'll go through this article, but I think this could have. Probably gonna go into iRobot level types of craziness here, assuming that what they say is true. Superstars, and of course, this is from AP News, so everything we take with a grain of salt, obviously. So I digress. Supervisors in San Francisco voted Tuesday to give city police the ability to use potentially lethal remote control robots in emergency situations, following an emotionally charged debate that reflected divisions on the politically liberal board over support for law enforcement. The vote was 8-3, which is the majority agreeing to grant police the option despite strong objections from civil liberties and other police oversight groups. Opponents said the authority would lead to the further militarization of a police force already too aggressive with poor and minority communities. Supervisor Connie Chan, a member of the committee that forwarded the proposal to the full board, said that she understood concerns over overuse of force, but that according to state law, we are required to approve the use of these equipment. So here we are, and it's definitely not an easy discussion. The San Francisco Police Department said it does not have pre-armed robots and has no plans to arm robots with guns, but the department could deploy robots equipped with explosive charges to contact, incapacitate, or disorient violent, armed, or dangerous suspects when lives are at stake, San Francisco PD spokesperson Allison Massey said in a statement. Now, it depends on what they mean by explosive charges. That could vary. If they're talking about like flashbangs or stuff like that, then yeah, that may not actually be so bad. But if you're talking about like actual explosive charges that go boom bang, releases shrapnel or whatever what's in explosive charges, because obviously I don't quite know what are in explosive charges other than just deadly stuff. I do know that there are explosive charges that are like flashbangs and stuff like that, or gas or what have you. And if they use stuff like that, then I don't really see how there's much of a problem here because, well, it's just, as I said, just incapacity, disorient, etc. But if they're using just explosive charges, to actually, legitimately cause bodily harm, just because it does not have a gun does not necessarily mean it's going to be a weapon of a so-called thing to where it kills people. So, that being said, I'm not quite sure what they would be particularly be using here because again, explosive charges that varies. Robots equipped in this matter would only be used in extreme circumstances to save or prevent further loss of innocent lives, she said. Supervisors amended the proposal Tuesday to specify that officers could use robots only after using alternative force or de-escalation tactics, or concluding they would not be able to subdue the suspect through those alternative means. Only a limited number of high-ranking officers could authorize use of robots as a deadly force option. Well, we've seen San Francisco police obviously be in full control over what they do over their officers or stuff like that. So I digress. San Francisco police currently have a dozen functioning ground robots used to assess bombs or provide eyes in low visibility situations, the department says. Well, yeah, that's obvious. It's not that really hard to see that they also have robots and these other things that they use to get people out of buildings or whatever to not actually kill them but to just get them out of certain areas, etc. That's fine. I have seen those robots in action. It's actually pretty bloody cool if you ask me to see them actually do their stuff. But yeah, I don't see how that's necessarily a problem. They were acquired between 2010 and 2017, and not once have they been used to deliver an explosive device, police officials said. Well, now you've been authorized to do it, so you could do it now. But explicit authorization was required after a new California law went into effect this year, requiring police and sheriff's departments to inventory military grade equipment and seek approval for their use. Now, guys, I can understand what you guys were probably thinking. Okay, well, police shouldn't have military grade stuff. Well, I would agree, but also disagree. The only reason why I would agree for police having the military grade stuff is because if you haven't heard of the LA shootout happen with two guys kind of rampaging the streets of LA and just shooting up the place and really causing massive mayhem, the police actually did not have enough firepower to deal with these guys. They had custom-made armor or body armor that was obviously made by them. And I forgot what weapons they had. I think they had like some type of AR-15s or what have you. And the police were simply outgunned. So they had to go into gun stores and grab shotguns and stuff like that to find a way to combat these guys. And that was part of the reason why the police ended up actually getting military grade stuff in the first place, because of people like that to stop them in their tracks. Obviously, if the police had AR-15 type stuff, would they just be on an ill-leveling playing field? It wouldn't mean that they would be, missing out match, because these guys did not have fully automatic weapons. It's illegal to have them in the U.S., so they had semi-automatic, but they just didn't have the firepower to do it because the pistols just didn't have the caliber. So that's the whole reason why we have military-grade stuff with the police. But I digress. I still think the military grade stuff with the police in particular is not necessarily that big of a deal. And depending on what they're using, obviously. If it's just robots and, not crazy drone level stuff or whatever, I don't see too much of an issue here. It says a federal program has long dispensed grenade launchers, camouflage uniforms, bayonets, armored vehicles, and other surplus military equipment to help local law enforcement. And yeah, and again, I have seen this stuff. And so far, they have done a pretty good job of using it. I don't really see too much of a problem. I don't think grenade launchers should be there. Bayonets is okay, because, bayonets or whatever. Camouflage uniforms, I guess it depends what you mean by camouflage. And they have armored vehicles, which I think is only actually used by the SWAT team. I could be wrong about this, so correct me if I'm wrong. In 2017, then President Trump signed an order reviving the Pentagon program after his predecessor Barack Obama curtailed it in 2015, triggered in part by outrage over the use of military gear during protests in Ferguson, Missouri after the shooting and death of Michael Brown. Well, here's the thing. If they didn't actually use those said weapons or military grade stuff, or rather I would say paintball guns, or not paintball guns, but like what is it? Those rubber bullets or whatever, which can be quite deadly. Actually, they're not necessarily not dangerous. They can very quite so be, but it's more along the lines of I would say they needed them to calm the protesters down, or I would say rioters, because they're a threat to the city or the people that are surround them, and it's up to the police to do protect and serve at that point. And you need to prevent actual riots from happening as much as possible. And as we've seen, that a lot of the riots that happened in 2020 were not okay. And granted, this was in 2015, but I digress. Still, you need to be able to be prepared. And if they had none of these basic stuff, I don't think they would be able to quell the protests as quite as well as they could have without this type of stuff. So like I said, there are points to where military-grade weapons are needed, and then there's other points to where I don't think they are needed. I don't think police should be necessarily allowed to have fully automatic weapons. I'll put that there. I don't think they should be allowed to have that. And I think only certain SWAT members or SWAT people should be allowed to even have remotely close to that stuff, depending on the level of threat. So obviously, there you go. Like many places around the U.S., San Francisco is trying to balance public safety with treasured civilian rights, such as privacy and the ability to live free of excessive police oversight. And in September, supervisors agreed to trial run, allowing police to access in real-time private surveillance camera feeds in certain circumstances. Debate on Tuesday ran more than 2 hours with members on both sides sides accusing the other of reckless fear-mongering. Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, who voted in favor of the police authorization, said he was troubled by rhetoric painting the police department as trustworthy and dangerous. I think there's a larger question to raise when progressive policies start looking to the public like they are anti-police. He said, "I think that's a bad progressive. I think it's bad for the sports bars. I think it's bad for Democrats naturally." Well, normally when I see Democrats do something, I never see it as being good for the people. I always see it as being negative, and I could also say the same for the Rhino Republicans as well, to wherever the Rhino Republicans actually do something and people that are not like Kerry Lake or DeSantis, I really start to think in my head: is it really meant for the actual people, or are you actually doing it? Are you actually doing it out of some type of other evil agenda that's on your board? Board President Shannon Walton, who voted against the proposal, pushed back, saying it made him anti-police but pro people of color. We could just start being asked to do things in the name of increasing weaponry and opportunities for negative interaction between the police department and people of color. He said, "This is just one of those things." I don't think this is an actual race thing. I think you're being an idiot. For the most part, I highly doubt this is an actual race thing. This is just more of the police wanting to be able to use more power against criminals. The San Francisco Public Defender's Office sent a letter Monday to the board saying that granting the police the ability to kill community members remotely goes against the city's progressive values. The office wanted the board to reinstate language barring police from using robots against any person in an act of force. Other than the side of the San Francisco Bay, Elk Club has dropped public protest backlash. Okay, so I can see where they're going here. So they mostly said that it's when you read here, they say to deploy robots that kill. They're pretty much saying that robots that they control remote control. They're not actually just releasing robots that are going out to kill people. All right. So this is another thing with AP. Just having a horrible headline that really does not mean what it actually says. It pretty much what it means that they're using robots to deter or incapacitate people from doing crimes, and it's going to be remote controlled. It's completely different if you have robot police actively going about and just purging people with no remote control, etc., which is what I think they were trying to get here. And this was the headline that would make people seek eyes on this stuff. So obviously, that seems to be the case. But I do see there could be some issues with this, but we'll have to wait and see. I think a lot of the things the cases to where police wouldn't have to use this stuff is just make better policies that puts more criminals in jail rather than keeping criminals out of jail. I think it's more down to the policies, DAs, etc., that's happening in San Francisco in general that's making them have to go to this extent. So, I mean, the people reap what they sow. I mean, you vote negatively, you kind of get what you want. I understand that a lot of the things here that we see in current modern day that you have to get a lot worse for people to realize things to really fix the problems that they see. But California in general is lost. It's there's not much things that are going to be going good here, so we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, that's it for the video. I thought this would be a little bit interesting to kind of break this down and kind of see what they're talking about, and rather than this whole pile of garbage that they just seem to just want to post. All right, guys, that's like I said, end of the video. Like, subscribe, share. See you in the next one. Take care.